What up guys, Miguel here of Yugatech, and Samsung has a new strong offering for power users, the Galaxy S10 Plus. That being said, we can't help but compare it to another power user-friendly smartphone that's already been out for a while, the Huawei Mate 20 Pro. Let's start with design. Right off the bat, both devices are very much S-tier premium quality. Both sport a metal frame with a glass front and back. The designs are almost similar with sides that curve to the edges for a more seamless look and feel. When it comes to aesthetics, the S10 Plus certainly looks newer by sporting a design that puts the front cameras in the screen, aka the punch hole. This also makes the S10 Plus's screen more immersive compared to the Mate 20 Pro, with its thick notch at the top. Regardless of your preference, the two devices are very attractive smartphones and would definitely turn heads. The two devices almost have the same height with just a difference of less than a millimeter. However, the Mate 20 Pro is narrower by almost 2 millimeters, making it slightly easier to grip. It's thicker though compared to the S10 Plus, but only by almost a millimeter, and heftier by 14 grams, which is a fair trade-off considering the slightly bigger battery capacity of the Mate 20 Pro. As for ports, both devices use USB Type-C ports. The S10 Plus though has a 3.5mm headphone jack, which is a plus, especially for those who want to use their favorite wired headphones without using an adapter, which isn't as common anymore nowadays, but nonetheless a cool feature to have when you need it. Both devices definitely feel nice in the hands, although the Mate 20 Pro's buttons are easier to reach since they're placed lower towards the middle of the frame. So I guess the Galaxy S10 Plus isn't the most ergonomic phone. Both devices have large screens. They're almost the same screen size and aspect ratios, with the Mate 20 Pro at 6.39 inches with a 19.5:9 aspect ratio, followed by the S10 Plus at 6.4 inches with a 19:9 aspect ratio. Both have a Quad HD Plus resolution, with the Mate 20 Pro at 1440 by 3120 and a pixel density of 538 pixels per inch, and the S10 Plus has a 1440 by 3040 resolution with a pixel density of 550 pixels per inch. The two also sport AMOLED panels, but the S10 Plus has what Samsung calls a dynamic AMOLED panel that brings better blue light filtering as well as HDR10+. When it comes to day-to-day use, we don't see any major differences in quality. They both produce punchy colors with great contrast and good viewing angles. When it comes down to it though, the S10 Plus's screen can get brighter if you need it, at a whopping 800 nits. When it comes to audio, both the S10 Plus and Mate 20 Pro can produce loud and clean audio, but the S10 Plus has the edge here. The soundstage is impressive for a smartphone, and we definitely can't sleep on that Dolby Atmos feature that really steps things up. Both devices use their earpiece as a secondary loudspeaker to make a stereo setup. Overall, the S10 Plus is a much better phone for watching videos. For music lovers, the S10 Plus also has the added advantage of having a headphone jack like we mentioned earlier. Now this is where things get interesting, as both phones have 3 rear cameras, but they vary in resolution. For the S10 Plus, it has a 12-megapixel main, a 16-megapixel ultra-wide, and a 12-megapixel telephoto. The Mate 20 Pro, on the other hand, has a 40-megapixel main, a 20-megapixel ultra-wide, and an 8-megapixel telephoto. Both have optical image stabilization for stable shots. For the front camera, the S10 Plus has 2, a 10-megapixel main and an 8-megapixel secondary for depth effects. The Mate 20 Pro, on the other hand, uses a single 24-megapixel wide-angle camera. Now let's get into some sample shots. Now both shots have a nice amount of detail, though the S10 Plus seems to have slightly more. For colors, the S10 Plus has a more natural, muted look going for it, while the Mate 20 Pro's processing is more aggressive, possibly overdoing the blue of the sky here. But then again, the shot ends up looking a lot more dynamic. When we move indoors to artificial lighting, the S10 Plus takes a hit in detail. The Mate 20 Pro is able to preserve sharpness better, though the colors look slightly muted by comparison. So this is the same scene of the buildings as earlier, but taken with the ultra-wide lenses. The S10 Plus's ultra-wide camera seems to perform closer to its main camera, while the Mate 20 Pro's is a little different. We get fine detail in both shots, though this time it seems that the S10 Plus's color are more saturated now. Again, this is the same scene of the cafeteria that we had earlier, but taken with the ultra-wide lenses of both phones. Same case here as last time. The S10 Plus is struggling with suboptimal lighting conditions, losing a lot of detail but still retaining decent colors. The Mate 20 Pro on the other hand is the opposite. It retains a good amount of detail but the colors are pretty washed out. Now let's take a look at the telephoto lenses. These shots are taken with a 10x zoom to see how much detail is kept. While the S10 Plus has more natural colors compared to the Mate 20 Pro's super blue tones, the latter was able to keep more detail. Just look at the windows on the left building. The lines are crisper rather than smudged looking. The S10 Plus is able to achieve a more natural blur and subject background separation, while the Mate 20 Pro's blur looks more artificial. It also has a weird halo effect around the leaves of the plant, which means the subject isn't cleanly separated from the background. Lastly, selfies. For this one, it's looking to be in the favor of the Mate 20 Pro. While the S10 Plus produces more saturated tones, especially in the skin, we get more detail and dynamic range from the Mate 20 Pro. So for cameras, as much as the Mate 20 Pro is a photography beast, I think Samsung one-upped Huawei this year and executed the triple rear camera setup better. But hold on to this little victory while you can, Samsung, because the Huawei P30 series is coming next month, and it may surprise us. Powering the S10 Plus is either the Samsung Exynos 9820 Octa or the Qualcomm Snapdragon 855, depending on your region. It's paired with 8GB of RAM and 128GB of internal storage, or 12GB of RAM and 1TB of storage for the limited edition. You can expand storage via microSD card up to 512GB. The Mate 20 Pro, on the other hand, has a high silicone Kirin 980 chipset with 6 or 8GB of RAM and 128 or 256GB of internal storage. Memory can be expanded via a nano memory card of up to 256GB. Comparing the two, the Galaxy S10 Plus definitely has the upper hand by offering a newer chipset, more RAM, and more options. As for overall performance, both will perform extremely well as the chipsets are the best in the market right now. Both can certainly handle AI and AR features as well as demanding games. The S10 Plus and Mate 20 Pro both have in-display fingerprint scanners. However, they work differently. The Mate 20 Pro's is an optical sensor which kind of works like a camera, taking an image of your fingerprint and comparing it to the stored image. But it also utilizes dynamic pressure sensing. Samsung's is an ultrasonic scanner, which can recognize the 3D characteristics of the actual fingerprint, which is actually more secure. Both phones have a face unlock feature, which means for the S10 Plus, the old iris scanner is gone. Both the S10 Plus and Mate 20 Pro have great options for biometric security, but the S10 Plus has the upper hand for having a more secure in-display fingerprint scanner. The two are also running the latest Android 9 Pie. The S10 Plus, though, is skinned with Samsung's new One UI, while the Mate 20 Pro is running on EMUI 9. For software, it boils down to personal preference, but both One UI and EMUI are feature-packed. The S10 Plus and Mate 20 Pro can certainly address the demands of heavy users with their batteries. The S10 Plus has a 4100 mAh capacity, while the Mate 20 Pro has a slightly bigger 4200 mAh cell. Both support fast charging, wireless charging, and reverse wireless charging, which is a nifty feature in situations that you need to share extra power. So, to summarize, both the S10 Plus and Mate 20 Pro have great designs and premium builds, have triple rear cameras with different lenses, which make them versatile shooters. We also have fingerprint scanners under the displays, and Android Pie running the software show. They both sport flagship chipsets from their respective manufacturers, but the S10 Plus offers more in terms of RAM and storage options. Although some might think it's a little bit overkill and just settle for the Mate 20 Pro. Battery-wise, the two have the same wireless and fast charging features, although the Mate 20 Pro has a slightly bigger capacity. Both are winners in our books. It now just boils down to pricing and personal preference. So which one are you going to pick? The Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus or the Huawei Mate 20 Pro? Let us know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, be sure to smack that like button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss any future uploads, and be sure to visit yugatech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. Again, this has been Miguel, and I'll see you in the next one.